Kellyanne Conway was dispatched to the media to provide some rationale for Donald Trump's Muslim ban. Why is it that all of a sudden we're banning refugees from a number of different countries across the world, or at least one limited portion of it? And she did that with her own particular brand of alternative facts, which you're going to see in this video clip.
I bet it's brand new information to people that President Obama had a 6-month ban on the Iraqi refugee program after 2 Iraqis came here to this country, were radicalized, and they were the masterminds behind the Bowling Green Massacre. I mean, most people don't know that because it didn't get covered.
Well, either because it didn't get covered or because she just made it up right there. It doesn't actually exist.
What happened to the coverage of the Bowling Green Massacre?
I don't know.
You know, people just don't want to talk about it. There's some sort of cover-up.
I don't want to talk about it because it's hard to talk about. I mean, I can hardly sleep.
I don't know the facts. I don't even know the alternative facts. So she's alluding to a Bowling Green massacre, but that didn't happen. People have tracked down what she probably meant, and it wasn't a massacre, but we're going to give you the details, especially because they tie in very interestingly with her assertion that, yeah, we can have a Muslim ban because of what President Obama did, that there's some connection between those two. Well, if so, why don't we look at the evidence? In 2011, 2 Iraqi refugees, Wad Ramadan Alwan and Mohanad Sharif Hamadi, were arrested in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So she did get that right, on federal terrorism charges. Allegedly, they had been plotting to send money and weapons back home to Iraqi insurgents. During the investigation that took place after that, the FBI found a very specific flaw in America's refugee screening process. Databases of fingerprints from Iraqi militants were not well integrated into the broader State Department-run refugee admissions process, and so they began a new review of the people who had already been moved into the U.S. and more stringent requirements for refugees coming in from Iraq as a result of that flaw. As a result of that, they had that new review. This process resulted in a significant slowdown in Iraqi refugee admissions to the U.S. for half of a year. But it wasn't a ban, and refugees from Iraq entered the United States in all 6 of those months that the slowdown was occurring in response to a very particular flaw in the system of refugee vetting and readmittance. So, look, there was a problem with people. They were apparently helping out Iraqi militants to attack our soldiers in Iraq. That is a major issue. But there wasn't a massacre, and there was never any sort of Muslim ban.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. That is the exact story. The story that she just said, without using the word massacre, is the same thing that you hear from people on the right wing that claim, yeah, Donald Trump is just carrying out what Obama was doing, but Obama never got any criticism for it. I even read a ridiculous argument online about how Obama banned Cubans from coming into the country. And so since there was a Cuban ban, why are we not mad at Obama, but we're super mad at Trump? There's no Cuban ban. Cubans have been able to come into this country and claim amnesty very easily for a very long time. It's a very different situation. But the reason why I'm giving you that example is because people will go to any stretch to make an excuse or defend Donald Trump's ban, right? And it's not a Muslim ban. It's just a straight up ban from people coming to the United States from those countries. Doesn't matter if you're Muslim, doesn't matter if you're Christian. And the reason why they did that is because they wanted it to appear as constitutional as possible. You can't attack a specific religion. That goes against our Constitution, right? But they hate Muslims so much that they're willing to just straight up do a travel ban of anyone coming from these countries. By the way, what happened to Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia has extremism, but you have businesses in Saudi Arabia, so you don't care about that country, right? People from that country can come in. Doesn't matter how extreme they are. It's just incredible to me. And again, they're looking for any excuse, anything to make it seem as though Trump is not that bad. He's just like President Barack Obama. No, night and day, especially when it comes to this issue. And by the way, what happened to Obama being weak on national security? What happened to us having no vetting in place when it comes to accepting refugees in the country? I thought they just willy-nilly come into the U.S. with no problem. Anyways.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's absolutely right. Everything you said is right. And the comparison, to the forced comparisons, and we're going to get into it when we talk about the jobs report too, but these forced comparisons to the Obama administration, when there's nothing at all to compare between those 2 administrations on this issue of a ban, of banning people. Revisiting, when they're talking about Cuba, revisiting the wet foot, dry foot in the last weeks of his administration was because of progress made with Cuba, that
Yep.
it was no longer applicable. And it was revisiting it. It wasn't saying, "No, we're done with it and we're going to keep the Cubans out forever," right?
No, exactly. It's saying, hey, you know what? Maybe now Latinos from all over the world should be on an equal footing when it comes to entry in the United States. I mean, think about this. Like, why is it that Cubans are considered those who are worth amnesty, but people who are trying to leave decapitations in Mexico from drug cartels, no. We can't consider them refugees. Please, okay? I get it, communism is bad, but Cubans have had it very easy here in the United States for a very long time, and no one ever talked about banning them. So let's just keep that 100.
And look, I mean,
That's what I was going to say.
If you want to, in this area, if you want to criticize Barack Obama, I think there are any number of different ways that you can criticize him on eventually raising the number of refugees that we are going to resettle from Syria, but taking a very long time to do it. I would say not responding appropriately to the situation in the Mediterranean, all the people that were dying there. We could have lended aid there. If you want to say that we got involved in Iraq for far too long, we didn't draw down soon enough. I mean, there are any number of good criticisms that you can make of him.
But
if
John, can I interrupt that for a second? Because there are 1,000 criticisms you can make of any president. But when a president is respectful of process, for the most part, there are executive orders that came out of the Obama White House as well. But there is no respect for process going on in 2 weeks every single day. So you're going to have some faults. And everything you said, you're absolutely right about. I agree with it completely. But it's also, you have to credit his respect for process and his respect for consultation in many of those cases. And this isn't about defending Barack Obama. This is about criticizing the guy who has his job now. And that's the difference. And so it's not as black and white as that. It simply is not. So I'm not saying you're saying that, but
you mean like the areas where like they're signing these executive orders without even consulting with the Department of Homeland Security, finding out if they're legal, are they effective? That's why we have the immigration problems that we have in airports.
Before they have a cabinet confirmed.
Before they have a cabinet confirmed as well.
So sorry.
And the issue here is that Kellyanne Conway, if we could return to the beginning, she's using a made-up massacre that she didn't even have the interest to actually look into to justify this Muslim ban. And it reminds me, we're not going to do a full story on it, but this morning, there was an attempted stabbing, perhaps a mass stabbing at the Louvre in France. Very serious situation, the guy got shot. And immediately, Trump administration officials, including Trump himself, began talking and tweeting about this. And so he tweeted out about it. We got to get smart, we got to get strong because of this. But he didn't care about what happened in Quebec. There were no tweet storms about that. And just yesterday, it was announced that they're going to be taking apart the Countering Violent Extremism program and forcing it to focus on exclusively Islamic radicalism and no longer covering right-wing, white supremacist, white nationalist extremism that, as we showed you on yesterday's program, has resulted in any number of different attacks in just the last decade.
But then they would just be investigating themselves, and that would waste a lot of their time.
It probably would.
Why bother doing that?
What's the most fun, outrageous, no rules podcast in America? Old School. That's a show in the TYT network. You get all the shows in the network when you become a member. TYTnetwork.com/join.